Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Wrestling Discussions. In today's episode, I'm going to be discussing and talking about the results of last night's NXT New Year's Evil, as well as the match card for tonight's AEW Dynamite. Now, before I get into that, I do want to talk about a different topic, a topic that hit. I think I heard about it last night, right before I went to bed. And that is Stephanie McMahon officially leaving WWE. She's stepping down in her role in WWE, and this is very interesting. So, I said this, I think it was in two episodes ago, I had mentioned how Vince McMahon had returned. Vince McMahon wants to sell the company, and Vince McMahon is potentially... Vince McMahon also, his return also caused a board member who was, performing an investigation on him for certain allegations, also caused that board member to step down. And so this is very interesting to me because now his own daughter stepped down. And this could be for a number of reasons. This could be for reasons we don't know. But obviously the most assumed reason is that of Vince is back. And nobody really wants him back. And also when you really think about it, he essentially, he wasn't supposed to come back. He used his majority ownership as a way of forcing his way back in. And I think it was pretty much agreed that when he had announced his retirement on live television, that he was going to be gone and that the company was officially Stephanie's and that her and Hunter were going to be, doing their own thing, and Hunter was moved up to head of creative, and now all of that seems to be falling apart. This can pose a lot of questions, right? Because this can obviously pose the question of, is Triple H going to stay? And from there, I talked about this with one of my friends earlier today, and they had, kind of brought up the topic of this could lead to Vince McMahon being all alone. This could lead to Vince McMahon losing everyone and then selling the company and that company trying to get a whole new group of people, a whole new team of people. And that's very possible. Vince McMahon could potentially drive everyone away. He already lost his own daughter. Triple H could very well be next. Shawn Michaels, if Triple H leaves, we could very well see Shawn Michaels and Road Dogg leave. And it's upsetting because, like I said, I believe it was it was in, like, I believe the very second episode of this channel, I had mentioned about William Regal coming in as vice president, and it's very doubtful that will happen. I mean, it's likely that he'll come back to WWE, but it's very doubtful that he will become the WWE vice president now, which is saddening. But it's also, again, this whole situation just poses a lot of questions for what is next for that of Vince McMahon? What is next for that of WWE? Because so far, everything seems fairly entertaining. Monday Night Raw, NXT, it seems fairly entertaining. And so I think it's safe to say that right now, Vince McMahon's sole purpose being back in WWE is focusing on that of selling the company, whereas the creator, it was stated he did get his creator ownership back in the sense that he does have creative power again. However, I think it's safe to say that he's not invoking that creative power and that he's more so just looking to sell his company. My only concern and question of this is, why would you want to sell your company when you could just give it over to your children? That is a little disappointing to me. Now, obviously, I think Shane is out of the picture, and I think Stephanie McMahon, maybe she just didn't really want as big of a role. I don't know, but I don't know. This could be completely different reasons than what everyone's speculating, but I think it's safe to say that the highest speculation right now amongst the fans is that Vince McMahon drove his daughter away from the company. I think that it's safe to say that that's one of the biggest fan speculations currently. Now, this opens up a numerous amount of opportunity for these companies now, right? Because I said this, I believe it was 2 episodes ago. I talked about how we could potentially see a number of people. We could see Comcast buy this. We could see Disney buy it. We could see the Saudi government buy it. This opens up a number of opportunity for those companies because they could bring in, if they bought the company, they could bring in just about any one that they wanted to bring in to the company. And when you look at it, I mean, what I think would be hilarious is if Vince McMahon sold his company and then the company that bought it hired Eric Bischoff to run it. I think that would be hilarious because I think that would be a kick in the face to Vince McMahon. And see, when I look at this right now, this is all political. This is the political aspect of professional wrestling. This is the business side of professional wrestling. You have to be incredibly professional, but you also have to be incredibly smart and strategic because this is where it comes down to if this sale isn't done right, and not only if the sale isn't done right, but if Vince ends up reinvoking his creative power or Triple H ends up leaving, WWE could very well just go straight into the ground because let me put it this way. Triple H has been in power since August. We are only in January. It has not even been a whole year since Triple H has been in power. It's been maybe even less than it might not even been half a year yet. I don't know. What I think it's 100% safe to say is that Triple H, if he leaves, and Shawn Michaels and Road Dogg follow behind, and William Regal follows behind, I think it's 100% without a doubt certain to say that it's over. That WWE is dead and buried, and that all the wrestlers in it need to find something else to do with their lives. Because it's just it's heartbreaking because the World Wrestling Federation, World Wrestling Entertainment, whatever you consider it to be in your heart, it's been around for so many years. It's the pinnacle of professional wrestling. It's one of the whatever people want to say in their opinion, the WWF and the WWE changed the landscape of professional wrestling in this world. And that is something that it's so hard to look at and go, okay, let's forget about it now. It's so hard to look at that and say, okay, well, WWE's dead, we have to move on. And I really hope that's never the case, and that's never going to be the case. That is my hope. Now, moving away from this topic and going into NXT last night, I'm not gonna go over every single match. I'm gonna go over the 3 main matches that I talked about in yesterday's episode, and I'm gonna start with the Women's Battle Royal. So the Women's Battle Royal was set to determine who would become the number 1 contender to Roxanne Perez's NXT Women's Championship. Now, this is the first person to fight Roxanne Perez for the NXT Women's title since Roxanne beat Mandy Rose for the title a few weeks ago. Now, I think it's safe to say that no one was expecting this. I certainly wasn't, but the winner, or the winners of the match, were actually 2 former members of Mandy Rose's faction known as Toxic Attraction. That's right, JC Jane and Gigi Dolan. Now, I'm not sure if the game plan here is to make JC Jane and Gigi Dolan a team still, like to make them friends still, or if they are completely eradicating Toxic Attraction because of Mandy Rose. I'm not sure. However, all that being said, they both won the match. Their feet hit the floor at the exact same moment. They both won the match. And so I'm assuming what that means is we're going to get a triple threat match for the NXT Women's Championship, which I'm all for. Honestly, I think it's a great way to kind of kick things off because I think JC Jane and Gigi Dolan are very incredible athletes. And I think their history with Mandy Rose, I think it makes some sense for them to kind of be put in there, fight Roxanne Perez, then be the first to fight Roxanne, and then Roxanne kind of move up the totem pole a bit more as she takes on more and more of the high class athletes in the NXT Women's division. Now, we also saw Dijak versus Tony D'Angelo for a number one contender spot to fight Wes Lee for the NXT North American Championship. And obviously, in last night's episode, for those of you that watched, I had predicted that Dijak was going to win. And I was correct. Dijak did win the NXT. He did win, and he is the number one contender to Wes Lee's North American Championship. Personally, I think Dijak's going to beat Wes Lee. It's no disrespect to Wes Lee. It's simply to say that I think Dijak is on a completely another level. And I think the dude has deserved and earned himself the NXT North American Championship on several occasions. And he's deserved that for years. And so I'm Team Dijak all the way in this one for sure. And now for what I thought was going to be the main event, turned out not to be the main event. We saw Braun Breaker versus Grayson Waller for the NXT Championship. I thought it was great. Like, the wrestling-wise, I thought it was great. And unfortunately, I was wrong. I predicted Grayson Waller would win. There was no winner. In fact, the ring broke, essentially. The middle rope broke off. The middle turnbuckle rope broke off. And it led to Grayson Waller, unfortunately, being counted out. And they decided that they were going to make the match again, this time at what I'm assuming is NXT's Vengeance Day. Grayson Waller versus Braun Breaker for the NXT Championship inside of a steel cage. Now, I'm not going to give any predictions on this yet, but I am going to say that I am excited for the match. I'm intrigued for it. I think it is an interesting turn of events, and I'm very, very intrigued for the potential of Braun Breaker versus Grayson Waller in a steel cage. Now, I am just going to say this. We also saw last night that Carmelo Hayes says that he wants to fight for the NXT Championship. And I think many people have seen this coming, Braun Breaker versus Carmelo Hayes. I think this has been a big match, long time coming. And so I am going to say for now that I think it's safe to say Braun Breaker will win. Now, this is not a prediction. This is not my final prediction yet. I will give my final prediction as we get closer to the actual match at Vengeance Day. But for now, I'm going to say that for now, you know what? For now, I'm going to say nothing. I'm not even going to comment on it. But yeah, that was what we saw in NXT. So now let's get into tonight's AEW Dynamite. So we have an interesting card for AEW Dynamite. Sorry, guys. We have an interesting card. We have Death Triangle versus the Elite in a ladder match, and this is the deciding match for the best of 7. And obviously, the winner will take away the AEW Trios Tag titles. Now, for predictions, this could go either way, in my opinion. I think the Elite are the inaugural Trios champions. I think if they win, they would be, obviously the first ever 2-time AEW World Trios champions. Personally, I love the Elite, and I want to see them win, but I also don't want to see them win. I'm mixed. It goes both ways. I think I'm going to go with the Death Triangle. Well, this is hard to say. This is a really hard one to say. You know what? I'm gonna go with the Death Triangle. I'm gonna go with the Death Triangle on this one, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm gonna go with the Death Triangle, and I'm gonna stick with the Death Triangle. Because, the Lucha Bros have beaten the Young Bucks before in a ladder match. And I just feel as though that these guys can... I feel as though that the Death Triangle is not done with their AEW World Trios reign. I feel as though they deserve more with those belts. And so I really want to see them hold on to them. I'm going to go with the Death Triangle for this one. Now, our next match is Jon Moxley versus Hangman Page. Now, see, here's another banger. Here's another match that I don't know if I can really decide on. I'm going to go with Hangman. Personally, I'm going to go with Hangman. Him and Mox had a great first matchup. Mox with the victory. However, I'm a Hangman Adam Page fan at heart. I'm a huge sucker for Hangman Adam Page. I'm going to go Page. I'm going to go Hangman Adam Page. Simply due to the simple fact that Moxley already beat him before. It might make sense for Hangman to win this time, maybe. I don't know. I think Moxley might win again. That could very well happen. Or it could be a draw. I'm not sure. But I'm going to go with Hangman. I think I'm going to go with Hangman. We also have Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker versus Saraya and Toni Storm. Now, obviously, I believe it was last Rampage we saw Jamie Hayter and Britt get a victory. I'm just going to say this now. I'm going with Saraya and Toni Storm. This is no disrespect to Britt and Jamie, but it's simply to say this is Saraya's second match. It's her second match. If she loses, even in a tag match, if she loses, it just wouldn't make sense. It would already undercredit her at such an early point. I'm gonna say Saraya and Toni Storm. We also have Bryan Danielson versus Konosuke Takeshita. Now, I am a major fan of Konosuke Takeshita. I think the dude is an incredible wrestler, and I've seen him do some of the best matches ever. However, all of that being said, I've got to go with Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson is on a straight path, straight towards MJF, and I think Bryan Danielson is going to not annihilate Konosuke, but I think it is. I'm definitely on the team of Bryan Danielson in the sense that I think, without a doubt, Danielson's going to beat him. I think it's going to be a great match, but I don't think Konosuke is going to get the victory, unfortunately. Alright, we also have Jungle Boy and Hook versus Big Bill and Lee Moriarty. Now, this is interesting. I've said this before on this podcast. I do not like this rivalry. I don't like this idea of a match between these two teams. So I'm going to say it now. I am going to go with Lee Moriarty and Big Bill. I don't see Hook and Jungle Boy getting the win, and if they do, I'm 100% going to say it's because of a roll-up on Lee Moriarty, or because somehow they took out Big Bill and kept him, down for just enough time to pin Lee Moriarty. Other than that, though, I'm going to say it's Big Bill and Lee Moriarty, just due to the simple fact that I don't see how you could beat Big Bill. I don't think it would be fair. I don't think anyone of Jungle Boy or Hook's size should be able to say, I beat Big Bill. I don't think it's fair. I don't care how good of a wrestler you are. I don't think it's fair to say, oh, I beat Big Bill. So I'm going to simply say, I'm Team Big Bill and Lee Moriarty in this one. That's my prediction. And if Tony Khan is smart at all, he will have Big Bill and Lee Moriarty win tonight. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, well, that was tonight's episode. Thank you for tuning in. Sorry if it was a bit of a short one, or maybe it was, I don't know, for you guys it was too long. Comment down below what you guys thought. As always, leave a like if you feel like it. Don't really care. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.